Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, the tell-all. Let's watch.
Gino, have you messaged anybody in this cast?
What do you mean?
Have you sent DMs or anything to anybody that you have met through this cast?
Uh-oh. So I don't usually, this is a very specific question. It's like, Gino, have you ever, gone to this particular restaurant and ordered this particular dish? Have you ever done that before? It's like, why am I being asked? So I'm guessing that Sean has a surprise revelation of, so what she's asking if he's contacted someone else on the cast. Well, often they will, like Kim and Memphis were talking how they have talked and are friends now. So maybe he just reached out to someone to be a friend. Who would he reach out to, though? Ben, maybe? Mike, maybe? I don't know. Let's find out what happens.
Through this cast?
Yes.
I mean, I've talked to the cast themselves.
Yeah.
But no.
But that's it. Nobody that has a connection with anybody in this cast.
No.
Okay.
All right. So a connection with someone maybe he just happens to know someone that knows someone in the cast. But are we leading up to a revelation that he's been flirting with someone else and they have proof of that? I mean, if Gino's done that, which, when Jasmine was accusing him of sending the nude picture, I don't know why, but I just thought, why would he do that? It just seems like such an off-the-wall behavior that we didn't have any evidence of him doing stuff like that. And then we see him saying, I didn't do it, and then it's discovered he did do it, and then that kind of rewrites history of he is capable of doing something like that. God knows what else he has done, and he just lied straight up to her face and to the cameras, even though there's a pretty clear possibility of being caught. So why wouldn't you just admit it in the beginning? It's just bad behavior, bad calculation, and a tendency to lying when it doesn't even serve you because you're going to get caught. So yeah, huge violation there. And you just have, after that point, for me watching, I'm like, well, he's capable of it. That's what lies do. It's possible that literally the only lie he has ever committed to Jasmine is that one lie about the nude photo. It's possible that's the only violation he has ever committed. But when you do something like that, and I guess particularly when you're caught, then you would, if you're Jasmine, you'd be stupid not to assume that there are not other lies. What am I saying? You'd be stupid to assume that there aren't any other lies. And so even though there might not be, and that's why lying should be avoided at all costs unless you absolutely have to resort to it. And there are rare circumstances where it would be prudent to do that, like if you're being abused or something like that. So as we're ramping up to some revelation, I'm just like, well, Gino's capable of anything. God knows. I mean, the judgment that he had, the lack of judgment that he's displayed, and the ease at which he can lie, who knows what he's done. Let's see what happens.
So what about Benjamin's friend, Jessica?
What about her?
Have you messaged her?
No.
Okay, but there's not been any communication.
Okay, so let's hope that he hasn't, because he is now, if he has contacted her, which I'm guessing at least there's some indication, otherwise Sean wouldn't be asking these questions. He has stated on international television in front of everyone, I have not contacted anyone in connection with the cast member, and specifically, I have not been in contact with Jessica. So, but we know from now, why would someone do this? There's a lot of reasons. There's psychopathy. Often when the internet and the public today sees this kind of behavior. They're like, oh, he's a sociopath, or what we typically will call psychopath, or someone suffering from antisocial personality disorder, in that they don't have empathy, they are callous, they don't mind lying, it doesn't bother. For non-psychopaths, when we lie, typically it will cause us pause because we've learned that lying is harmful, and we don't want to harm other people. Also, we don't want to be punished. So it's both of those. We don't lie because we don't want to hurt someone, and also we don't want to be caught on the lie and punished. Psychopaths, one, they generally don't care about other people's feelings, and two, they also have not always, but they typically will have less fear in general, and thus they don't really internalize what could happen, consequences. They don't really think about consequences of their actions. In fact, some theories suggest that the reason why these people are the way that they are is because there's one difference in the brain, which is that their amygdala and their fear center in their brain is actually underdeveloped, or there's a injury or some kind of insult or a problem with connecting to it or something, such that when they're 0 to 5, they actually don't have any fear, or they have very, very little fear. Fear is a very important thing for us to develop into functioning adults. Not only to fear falling off of the roof, for example, and breaking our neck, but also fear of disappointing other people, fear of our parents being upset at us. So when you're 2 and you lie and you get caught in it, and your parents raise their voice at you, not abusively, but they get stern, and they say, you aren't supposed to lie. That sternness and that empathy of like, oh, they're upset at me and they're hurt by me, and I'm afraid of being, of their disapproval and maybe even having some sort of consequence. That repetitive experience that really kids have throughout the day. I mean, a kid could have that particular experience 25 times in one day, every day of the year for 5 years, you know what I mean? And that repetitive experience, you learn lying not only hurts other people, which hurts me because I have empathy, but also lying, I sometimes get in trouble for it, and I don't want that to happen. So by the time you're 35 years old, you just have this automatic reactivity to lying, where you're just like, oh, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, and I don't want to be punished, even when you're a grown man and you're not likely to be punished in the way that you would fear when you're 2 years old. And I'm not talking about abuse. Children healthily are afraid of their parents' disapproval. It's a very important mechanism to guide children in their moral and empathy development. Anyway, so that's psychopathy, that's antisocial. Very few people are like that, though. The internet believes that anyone who cheats or anyone who lies is a malignant narcissistic psychopath, and it's possible that that's the person that it's possible that your ex-boyfriend is one of those people, but on the percentage-wise, it's not likely. If you see someone lying, the chance that it's coming from psychopathy is actually pretty low. There's that. But typically the reason why people will repetitively lie, there are various different developmental paths, but one of them, and my hypothesis about Gino, it's a very loose one because we don't know anything about his childhood, is that he was perhaps overly punished or rejected or something when he got in trouble as a young person. Who else was like this? Ash, I remember thinking, might have had this history, and I think Ash, from before the 90 Days season 4, Ash and Avery, because Ash would also obscure things frequently, if I remember right. Anyway, point is that, or be overly optimistic. Point is that Gino has the vibe of someone who had that experience and perhaps a little bit of neglect or something. And so I don't know, it's hard. Something happened where he felt like he had to be a good person, he had to be a good boy in order to be accepted. And if he did something wrong, he needed to quickly obscure it or risk rejection from other people. And so because his lying is so bad, it's so, and I think he's about to be caught in another lie. And it's that automatic response. If you could just stop him, stop time and go up to him and go, Gino, think about it. think about your response to this question. If you lie, you're going to get caught, which will make it 10 times worse. So, and yet he still lies. So why would someone shoot themselves in the foot? It's usually because there's a neurological pathway that develops early in life through repetitive experience that it's like, when you're about to be in trouble, lie. Don't even think about it, because the quicker you can lie, the more likely you are to be believed. But of course, that can shoot you in the foot, right? And be harmful to people around you.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
What happened?
I'm gonna tell you something, Gino. The truth always prevails. So confess right now, and whatever I have to hear right now, I wanna hear it from you, not.
Yeah, good. This is great. Very, very wise and healthy for Jasmine to, I think, recognize that he has a tendency to lie, and she's trying to help him. She's saying, Gino, now we're at a crossroads. If you continue to lie, and I hear from Sean that you did something, it's gonna hurt me more. So you could benefit yourself by you telling me. It might still hurt me, but it's better. It'll be a lower hurt for me, and I will be less angry. I'll still be angry, but it'll be less so if you confess to me directly. Also, it will cause me less damage to my trust of you. You know, it's one thing to do what you did. It's another thing to lie about it. So she's really giving him a chance right now. Let's see what he does.
Why is Sean asking you these questions?
I don't know.
Tell the truth now, Gino.
I'm telling you.
Well, who knows what the revelation is, and maybe he hasn't communicated with Jessica at all. But given his track record, it's really quite possible. So I hope y'all can look at this and say, wow, I mean, something's wrong with his psychology, such that, because if this is a lie, that he would lie for so long when it's clearly not a good idea. So why would someone do that? And so now another possibility that I would see clinically, this would be mainly kids, it wouldn't be adults, but occasionally it would be an adult, who early in life, 0 to 5, often 0 to 2, would have a pretty significant attachment disruption, often in the style of neglecting a child. It could be because of parents dying or being put in an orphanage from 0 to 18 months, or a parent who's depressed or who works too much, resulting in a child essentially being left alone from 0 to 18 months, more so than is healthy. What happens is the child, and I've seen this in how it manifests later in life, there's a window of time where children learn how to have in their heart other people's feelings, and it's empathy, but it's more than that. It's an orientation. It's sort of like the way that right now all of us can recognize that there's poverty and disease and underprivileged people who are being mistreated. There's war going on right now. People being killed just because they happen to be Ukrainian, and a bomb blows up in their building, and kids and people, non-combatants, are dying. And there are other parts of the world where that's happening as well. And we all understand that, but it doesn't destroy us typically on a minute-by-minute basis, because our orientation tends to be on what's happening around us, to the people we know, which has pros and cons to it. The pro is that we can get through the day, and the con is that sometimes we ignore things that we should be paying attention to. So we have orientations. We have orientations of focus, and there are pros and cons to it. And obviously, it was conducive when we were evolving as a species and on the African savanna during the Pleistocene 150,000 years ago to focus on what was happening around us because that's what's important. So when we are 0 to 18 months old, we're open to interacting with our caregivers and being very focused. If you've ever had a 12-month-old toddler, you understand that they are very focused on you and often very afraid of strangers past a certain age. The child is oriented that way because we evolved to be that way because survival and bonding depend on the child having that orientation. And there's some differences here, but generally speaking, this is true. And so when you're having that orientation and there's that close enough relationship between caregiver and child, the child learns over time and it builds neurological pathways that involve an awareness of other people and their feelings. Again, a short word for this is empathy, but it's more than that. It's not just empathy for other people's feelings. It's an orientation towards other people. It's an orientation that is other people matter, other people are important, I need other people, I wonder what other people are doing, I wonder if I want to spend time with other people. And for people that have that neglect experience, 0 to 18, sometimes later in life, it's seen that they, 1, lack empathy, and 2, just aren't even really oriented towards other human beings because they were left to their own devices. They're pathologically independent. And of course, a lesser version of this is avoidant attachment, but at a more down the road version of this is what we call schizoid personality disorder and other kinds of issues. And I don't want to generalize towards schizoid, and I'm going to do a deep dive eventually on schizoid, so watch out for that. But point is that a symptom of this that I would see that would be very frustrating to people around these individuals was pathological lying, where they would just lie about anything and lie about things that were obvious that were lies. I don't know if that's what we're seeing. It doesn't seem that pronounced, and I also don't see other signs because he clearly is bonding pretty well, and I think he does have empathy for Jasmine. But I just wonder if he had a little bit of that makes it so that he just doesn't have that feeling of pain and anxiety when a lie emerges as an option. For people that are raised well enough, when we have a lie that occurs to us as an option, we actually cringe from it. It's like, it's going to be bad to lie. That's partially why a polygraph can work. Lie detector tests. They've been debunked forwards and backwards, by the way. So just know that it's not even close to an accurate way of detecting if someone's lying. But the science behind it is sound in that when we lie, we sometimes will, due to what I'm talking about, have a physiological adrenaline fight or flight, however minor, reaction to even the prospect of lying. And then when we lie, we actually have that reaction. The reason why the polygraph doesn't really work is that when you're asked a question that it provokes the possibility of a lie, but you tell the truth, you could still have a physiological reaction to that because you thought about lying, or you're worried about being in trouble for the answer that you gave, or you're worried you're going to give the wrong answer. Conversely, if you're very good at lying and you actually don't care about other people's feelings, when you lie, you don't have a physiological reaction. So, and that's just 2 of the many factors that result in the science that demonstrates that polygraphs don't work. Anyway.
I don't know.
Tell the truth now, Gino.
I'm telling you.
I think she messaged me hi, and I responded back, hello, how are you, or something.
Yep, there you go. So I'm just going to take a guess and say that that's not the full story. So it's following the same progression that it did with the sending of the nude photo. Lie, 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 and then tell a little bit of the truth, and then it's later revealed that it's this huge thing. Good for him that he admitted it. Should have admitted it from the beginning, and if it's innocent, what's the big deal? Now, the other asterisk to this, which I think is there, but I don't think it's a major excuse, that Jasmine, you could argue, is emotionally and verbally abusive. Not to a high degree in terms of what we've seen on the show, but you could see her anger being very intimidating and scary for him. And at the very least, it wouldn't be unwise for him to assume that that when he does innocent things, Jasmine could be triggered by that, which could cause problems for anyone. So it's a good idea to obscure certain things. Like, say he goes to the store and buys some food, and there's a young woman who is the cashier, and they have a short exchange, and it's totally innocent and everything's fine, like what we saw. And Gino goes home, and Jasmine says, did you talk to the cashier? I don't recommend this, but you could imagine a situation where Gino would be like, well, there's no way she would be able to prove that I talked to anyone, so it's probably best if I just say, no, I didn't talk to anyone. I don't recommend that, but you could imagine that that would be a result because of his worry that Jasmine's going to blow it out of proportion, because we've seen her do that. And so that needs to be included. That it doesn't justify lying. I don't think that's the major factor in the lying. If you're in a relationship like that, one, you deserve to not be intimidated by that. And two, you're just going to trigger more of that reactivity from the person if you do lie.
Everybody can call me crazy and whatever, but I never disrespected you, Gino. I have never cheated on you, and I'm so sick and tired of you playing the nerdy, the naive, and you always keep doing the same to me over and over again.
We don't know what happened. Maybe we'll find out. But yeah, so this is new, right? Because the previous one, he was vindictively sending a nude photo of his current girlfriend to his ex-partner to rub it in her face, which from the account didn't work on the former partner, and the former partner was like, I don't care, who knows. But that was the motivation, and then the lying was to cover up what he had done because he knew it would hurt Jasmine and he couldn't take it back. So that's the motivation for lying. This time it seems like we might be going in a direction where Gino is flirting. And if he is found to be flirting, then who else is he flirting with? And then if he's flirting with a bunch of people, why? I mean, there's often on the show, there'll be these kind of revelations, like Colt, when he was with Jess, is sending D-pics to like dozens of people online who eventually reach out to Jess and say, look, he sent me this. And so you just have to, we'll wait to see what happens for Gino, but it's interesting. And I think if I were to hypothesize as to why that would happen with Colt and maybe with Gino, is one hypothesis, and I don't know, is that, and it doesn't excuse it by any means. It's cheating, it's lying, it's deceptive, it's harmful, it's immoral, it's wrong. I'm confident in that as a therapist, as a human, as a YouTuber, in saying that it's wrong to deceive and lie and cheat. So why would someone do that? Well, one hypothesis is that one of the reasons why people come on this show, not always, is that they have had a really hard time with dating. And one of the reasons why some of these people have a hard time with dating is because they come across as unappealing to the average person that they're pursuing. I mean, let's just be frank about it. Gino, Mike, Colt, these individuals, we could imagine, we don't know. I mean, there's a lid for every pot, but we could, and I don't want to shame these people for how they look or present themselves, but we could imagine that it's harder for them to date than it would be, say, for example, for Hamza, or for Armando, who, good-looking fellas. We could imagine that it's, harder for Colt and Gino. So when you have a lifetime of that, and who knows, maybe Gino was a hottie when he was young. Did I just say hottie? I think I did. That you end up having a complex around dating and around romance and sexuality that you just feel like you're the ugly duckling. No one's ever going to love you. You feel very rejectable. I don't know, just hypothesizing. Then you go on a reality TV show and thousands upon thousands of people are contacting you, and a percentage of those are actually hitting on you, and a percentage of those are hitting on you genuinely, and a percentage of those aren't catfishing you. You know, so there's a group of, you're going to get a lot of DMs and stuff, and some of them are going to be hitting on you. And so, you know, Kenny talked about that. Kenny was like talking to Steven, right? And Kenny's like, I got boob pictures and I'm gay, so you're going to get stuff. And I think, hypothesizing, that for Colt and possibly for Gino, that for the first time in your life, you suddenly are getting the attention that you've always wanted since you were 13 years old. And it's hard to resist, and you're not used to resisting it. By contrast, you have someone that's conventionally attractive, like Jasmine, for example, and you've been hit on since you were 13 and have, one, had your ego gratified, like, oh, people want me, people like me. So you've satisfied that ego boost. Two, you've learned to say no to people. In fact, you might just have an automatic of like no and not flirting, because you know to flirt or to entertain flirting with you is to incur consequences down the road, unfortunately. And so you learn to just have a wall up to a certain extent, perhaps not even replying to DMs of particular people. And so you just have a knee-jerk reaction of just like, nope, cool your jets. Whereas if you're the Ginos and the Colts of the world, you might have literally never had to reject someone who was hitting on you because you've never been hit on in your life. So if you're Jasmine and suddenly you get thousands of people contacting you, you have a skill that you've developed for years on pushing back and not entertaining that. And also knowing about yourself, like, well, it's sort of gratifying, but it'd be a bad idea to go down that road because I learned that when I was 16 years old or whatever. But to the Ginos and Colts, they've never learned that lesson, potentially. I don't know. Again, maybe Gino has always had many lids trying to get on that pot throughout his life. I don't know. But because this often happens where someone is called out on the tell-all having flirted, and Steven included, right? And so you just wonder, is that why? Is it because it's just so confusing to them? It's sending a starving person into a room full of junk food, and they just start cramming a bunch of candy bars in their face, and then they feel like crap afterwards because they've never had the opportunity even to make that choice. What a metaphor, right?
We actually have the DMs.
I need to see it. Gino, you're in trouble. Trust me.
No.
Jessica gave this to you, right? Okay. Hi, Jessica. I have to ask out of my curiosity, but are you Sicilian?
Okay. Jessica was on the show, had a brief appearance in the beginning of the season, and so he reached out to her, like he initiated the conversation is what they're basically intimating. And okay, nothing wrong with that. You can tell Jasmine, by the way, I've been, reaching out to various people on the show. I'm not flirting with them. You just say something. Yeah. And when you obscure it, it looks shady. The other thing I'll say is Sicilian, from Sicily, why is there a guy with a cowboy hat? Do they wear cowboy hats in Sicily? Maybe they do.
With a cowboy hat. Smiley cowboy hat.
Just need to take this ring.
She responded, LOL, I'm not, but my husband is very Italian. Gino, that shows me that you reached out to her first.
No, she originally reached out and said hello to me first.
Do we believe him? Because you've lied today. Just bald face, excuse the pun, lie repeatedly about something that was obviously a lie. So do we believe him that she reached out first? Does it matter? So, let's say she did reach out first. Fine. Now, at this point, it's just an innocent conversation, and he could have just said, look, I contacted Jessica. For example, for me, a lot of people will DM me or email me and that sort of thing. My wife sees literally every single one of those things. So, and that's okay, right? Like, and sometimes, like, people will DM me or email me or something, and then I'll reply and I'll say, there'll be a back and forth. But I don't have anything to hide. So my wife has full access to all that because I'm not hiding anything, even if it can be kind of deep. Someone will email me and it'll be emotional. It'll be deep. Someone's sharing something with me, and so there'll be a back and forth. It's not just a surface conversation always. So, but I don't have anything to hide because there's nothing happening. So just share. So Gino, why would you do this? Now, so something's going wrong with this guy, because I know that he would not want to sabotage the relationship. I also don't imagine that, at least consciously, he's like, ooh, I can get with Jessica. So something's going on there that is shooting him in the foot.
Okay, and would you be able to pull that conversation up on your
Show
DMs?
it. You have your cell phone. Show it. Show it to Sean.
I don't think I had that. No.
Oh, so convenient.
Why would you delete it?
Oh my God. There we go.
Because Jasmine occasionally has full access to his phone. So, yikes. Like, Gino, what? Why would you shoot yourself in the foot like this? And God knows what else he has done. And I suspect it's all on the up and up, or at least not terrible. So it's like he's determined to ruin the relationship over what? Just mildly having a conversation with another cast member. I mean, it's a friend of a, but she just goes on the show. So, Gino, like, why are you torturing Jasmine and yourself with this? It's such,
Again, this is
Well, I
a
was
nightmare
not
that will
hitting on
never end.
her, okay? I never cheated on Jasmine, ever.
I will never be respected by you, Gino.
No, but
It's never your fault.
she reached out to me first, I remember.
Yes, every woman on earth wants to reach out to
And
you.
I was just being friendly, having a friendly conversation with her.
fine. Tell her, one. Two, when you're asked about it, don't lie. So it's, I worry about Gino, and whether it's with Jasmine or anyone that he's in a relationship with, but it all makes sense, right? Like, he lied very easily, and now he's not acknowledging the fact that he lied, and it's just like everything's fine. If that were me and I lied like that, especially on camera, and then was caught, I would be mortified. But my development is more typical along those lines. So, it's just all notable. It's just, it doesn't mean he's a psychopath. He could be. I don't think he is, given the behavior we saw during the season, but I can't diagnose that from afar anyway. It'd be hard to see that, really. But he clearly has some sort of neurological experience developmentally that results in him, one, easily lying, and then two, just like not having that mortification that one would feel and the shame of lying. All right, well, that does it for that episode. By the way, if any of you are actual content creators, podcasters, YouTubers, whatever, I don't know why, but I would like to know who you are. If you're out there, share your stuff with me. It's always a pleasure. If you're a musician, an actor, a documentary maker, I love creative endeavors and projects, and so if you're involved in that, I don't know. I just would like to know that you're out there. Artists, obviously, I'm just curious. Send me your Instagram or your webpage or whatever. I would probably prefer email, honestly. If you go to the website psychologyinseattle.com, hit the contact button. If you comment below, I don't always see all the comments because sometimes if they're down below, I don't have time to see it. So, but I'd love to. You can also DM me on Instagram if that's sometimes an easier way to contact me. I don't always check that. Anyway, I'm curious about your creative projects, particularly if you have a YouTube channel, because I don't know, like as a YouTuber myself, I'm just curious about what other people are doing. But anyway, everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.